world historians. This is day 7. This is 7C. We just finished up talking about Babylon 2, and now we're going to talk a little bit about Persia, the last power to take hold in Mesopotamia before Greece and then Rome become the power of the ancient world. And just to review, to kind of look at this chart of the order of who's in power when, and a lot of these overlap or are in power at some of the same time in different regions, but this list in order is kind of who has the most power in Mesopotamia, and then the order in which they do that. So the Sumerians are the first powerful empire in ancient Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers, Tigris and Euphrates. Then the Akkadians briefly. Then the Amorites, which is another way of saying the first Babylonian empire. Then the Hittites, who brought in iron weapons, and when they had a monopoly on that, they were in power, until the Assyrians also developed iron weapons and had such a fierce army, kind of ruthless battle strategies, that they took over for a while. Then the Neo-Babylonians, also called the Chaldeans, related to the Amorite people. So this is the second Babylonian empire. Nebuchadnezzar is in charge there. These are all names for the same powerful empire. And then finally the Persians, led by Cyrus, then Darius, then Xerxes, kind of the son of the son of the son. All right, so as we get into the Persians now, the Persians take power. And remember that the first merciful thing that they did is allowed a remnant of the Israelites, the Hebrews, the Jewish people, to go back and to rebuild the temple and rebuild the city. So here is a map of the extent of the Persian Empire. I do want us to notice Greece here, because Greece is going to kind of hold their ground against Persian advances, and Persia is going to waste so much of their military and navy trying to get Greece that they are going to begin to lessen in influence by trying to take Greece. They basically get a little too greedy there. So the Persian Empire, and they really expanded their territory. So you can see that they stretched out, at least to the east, nearly as far as what Rome is going to take eventually. And Rome is known as having, the largest empire once it has that empire, and that's coming soon. But the Persian Empire really extended pretty far, and they had a very famous road, the famous Persian Road, to connect their empire. So some of the great things that they do, or the powerful things that they do predict some things that Rome's going to do in its heyday. Some Persian art. So the Persian Empire as a power, now the people are existing before that, but as a power, it's founded in the 6th century BC by Cyrus the Great. And that's the 500s BC, 6th century 500s BC. Again, the largest empire the world had seen, and we kind of looked at that map and talked about that and how they navigated it with roads. The rise of the Persian Empire. And there you have the royal road. If you recall the book of Esther in the Old Testament, Esther talks about how Susa and that city take part in the adventures of the Persian Empire, and Esther actually becomes queen of Persia. So you can see what a large empire she's in charge of, and she has her brave deeds of speaking up to the king and on behalf of the Jewish people, and risking her life to do so to save all of her people. So Esther, extremely brave, born for such a time as this. The first note to write down officially, and you could have written down some others, but the first note is that from 558 to 530 BC, and this is considered the 6th century BC, Cyrus establishes a vast empire that stretches from India all the way to Egypt. And when Alexander the Great, who's going to come from this region, Macedonia, is going to take power and eventually take what Persia had, he's going to kind of ride on the coattails of Persia and just basically claim for Greece and for Macedonia in the name of Alexander the Great. He's going to claim a lot of that in their name, but Persia has already done the work of subduing the local people and uniting it with communication. So Persia really does the work, and then Alexander the Great he's later going to come in and say, oh, well, I claim this in the name of Alexander the Great. But when we study Alexander, you'll see that he is only really in charge for a short period of time and doesn't have a lot of opposition in a lot of these places, kind of the right military general at the right time.